Hi, today I'm talking about cycles, and I'm going to start with the natural cycles of childhood. A lot of us have um, kind of used the outer parts of the brain, like the cerebral cortex, executive functions, because of our accomplishment, task-based society. We've even gotten pride about this, and maybe even in ways we've become great scam artists and manipulators and dishonest, and we really know how to get what we want, even if we have to lie and cheat and steal for it. And I'm not saying me or anyone specific, kind of like a cultural or societal, national tendency. And it really doesn't leave much room for letting go of control and letting go of what actually can be interpreted for our own benefit, and in some ways where we could actually see what we could work around and what serves us better, rather than being very fixing oriented and solving oriented to try to get things with a bow and to end up feeling like everything's perfect, and just sort of like this, letting it not be so charged that there's even shame around this, really allowing this to be a part of living in a world where cycles aren't always honored. And this has to do a lot with time, respecting people's time, but also cycles of friendship. There are some friends that we could be a little bit late, and given the fact that we've been friends for a long time and it's not usually what we do, it could be okay. But then if it's like we're always late, this person may not want to make plans with us when they have other things going on in their life, or if like on the way out we sort of like want to see who else is there and like make them wait an hour while we talk to other people, they're probably not going to want to come out with us again. And we can sort of let it go and not make it be that just because we disappointed somebody doesn't mean we are a disappointment, or just because we made someone feel like they did something wrong doesn't mean that we're like the cause of their guilt. And rather sort of recognize as executive of our lives, we have to see what's important to us. And so I'm going to speak about the two sort of ends of the spectrum, and how we always are kind of cycling through more subtle refinements, like whether it's kind of creative energy or destructive energy, and then like within those, like how to work with it. And life requires this negative and positive force. Like to be life is to say there's like there's a space for life to come. If it was totally touching, we'd be dead. So it's like the edges have to make some space for life, which is invisible, to exist. So doing this work in order to be alive in a real way means that first I'm going to list a whole bunch of words that have to do with a natural cycle for a child. And some of the words might be triggering, but this is sort of like to let all the tension out. I'm just going to read through all of them. Awake, confidence, support, voice, express, consolation, preciousness, imagination, alive, play, magic, decisions, joy, trust, sorrow, sadness, visit, role, strategy, doubts, protection, rage, wonder, vulnerable, wants, confusion, doubts, laugh, room, missing, hiding, abandonment, wishes, worries, shining, permission to succeed, advocate, resistance, dream, inside, creativity, needs, fear, advocate, feelings, whole, sabotage, curiosity, guidance, stuck, acting out, integration, action, tameness, honor, littleness, wounded, stresses, permission, sellout, reward, safety, coaxing, blocks, clarity, visibility, connection, help, aspirations, transformation, innocence, upliftment, adulting, frustration, criticism, resentments, difference, stress, power, inner critic, proud, constant change, fuel, disturbance, ashamed, fulfillment, favorites. So these are natural cycles of childhood, and they happen all the time. And when any of them become stuck, we don't learn how to cycle through these natural ways of being alive. And they're all necessary. Life and death are best friends. Anybody like sort of running away from their death is going to keep finding it everywhere they look. Fear of impermanence, sickness, abandonment. Like, we gotta cycle through and actually go through the cycle of getting and losing and getting and losing. And every breath and every inhale and every exhale is a life and a death. And every relationship is a life and a death. And every job is a life and a death. And every task is a life and a death. And when we're rushing through this, we're actually rushing to death. So I now want to bring in like a sense of purity into all our executive functions, which are kind of like death. Like, I finished, I'm completed, I know. By all of us practicing inhaling, exhaling, and imagining that as we slow down, we feel more life. And as we catch up with ourselves, we feel more alive, more vitality. We might be on our deathbed at some point with everything figured out and a few last words, but if we live like that, we never really got a chance to live. We are eating from this tree of knowledge all the time. The mind always wants something to chew on. So it's always planning. It's always trying to figure it out. It's always fixing. It's a great tool. It's a computer. It's a problem solver. It's a calendar. It's a calculator. It's got everything we need to survive. But if we're always trying to survive, we're actually reinforcing that we could die at any moment. And if we're able to really fully let that into our body and trust that this negative tension, if we move our hands but don't allow them to touch, we can start to feel, just going like this, we can start to feel that magnetism of having energy pressing out. And if we're always using that energy forward facing, rushing towards something, we might think we're running away from being empty space, a void, but we're actually not. Enjoying that from the void comes from within newness and life and possibility. And so they're best friends. They're sisters or brothers, father and mother. It's hard to tell what to call it, but life and death are always going to be hand in hand. For newness, something has to go away. And this may be a lot to do with family values. And for a moment, I might have unpopular belief when I tell the truth about how when the father says, no, it's enough, the mother doesn't have to have too much chaos. A single mother has too much chaos to respond properly to the natural cycles of a child because she could be anywhere on her cycle. A masculine energy doesn't run through these cycles the same way. It says, this is the edge. And a healthy masculine doesn't say this is the edge at your expense. It says, I know. You're being inappropriate, but I know. And act out all you want, but I know. So it's this a certainty, a stability. And every woman who's kind of like dreaming of Mr. Right imagines he's a rock. He's got security. He's confident. He's not going to react to everything that the woman does. And this is healthy masculine, but not idealized masculine. He has his own cycles. Testosterone cycles are very different than the sort of constant cycle of a woman. So now moving into the cycles of the mother having chaos, responding to the chaos of children, and then there isn't the energy of, I'm going to provide such and such, and there's an edge to the limit. It's what cuts it in half and says yes or no. It says this is okay or not. And the woman who trusts the man, when he says this is too much, he says, you're right. I'm really getting like worked up. And for the sake of peace, she wants the peace too. So they come together for the sake of birthing peace. If there's enough peace, women and children can be around. If there's not enough peace, then women have to be men. And men themselves are fighting with other men. And also looking at their family members as enemies. So peace is necessary for the family values. And so we've got to have that inner peace too, the part of us that has discipline and also the part of us that doesn't know. So we're always eating from this tree of knowledge. We're always interested in learning more information and wanting something to chew on. But we don't need to know everything because there's good and bad in everything. The more we know, we think it's going to be good and interesting, the more we could also know negativity. So sometimes just the practice of not cycling through new information constantly, and this addiction to the phone actually leaves us knowing a lot of negativity. You can't control what you're exposed to, and you're looking when you're hungry for something new. Sometimes it's okay to rest in what is. So now I'm going to move through the cycles of executive functions, And I'm just going to name them. There's 13 main areas that are spoken about. And these are all ways in which we need to bring peace. So I'm going to take a deep breath with you in each one. So first of all, what our brain is good for, we have this executive sort of frontal part, this front area. This, like I said earlier, this all the cycle stuff is going on in the background, our subconscious, and in order for our subconscious to trust this executive function, which cuts and says and goes forward, and it could be rushing toward death, but we're going to make it slow down a little bit and have a little bit more peripheral vision, not just like penetrating gaze. And for the sake of wholeness, the so-called feminine and masculine polarities, or positive, negative, or whatever it is. We're going to breathe peace into our planning. In for 4 and out for 8. We're bringing peace and comfort into our organizing. And out for 8. We're bringing honesty and truth into our prioritization. We're bringing peace and sustainability into our self-care. In for 4, out for 8. We're bringing rest and calm into our emotional regulation. We're bringing relaxation, restoration into our working memory. We're bringing slowness and calmness into task initiation skills. We are bringing joy and stillness into our focus, attention, concentration. We are bringing pacific and passive vibes into our inhibitory skills. We are bringing silence and witnessing to our task persistence. We are bringing acceptance and yielding to our transitions. We are bringing ambiance and chill to our skills to move through resistance. Now we say a few affirmations that we are marrying our intentions to our experience. That may we, as we rush through our cycles, may we catch ourselves to recognize that life is always in cycles. And let's arrive for the cycle. Let's be here during the cycle. Yeah, we may have an outcome or a result we're interested in. But now we're visualizing, marrying the intention. So the intention is moving forward. It's going forward. And the experience is right now. So the experience is right now in the middle of the mind. And then we're going to say an affirmation now. After we visualize, so we're going to visualize now in the back of our mind that we're cutting all the cords. Now visualize yourself, and even it might help to just do a cutting. We're cutting all these cords, and we're letting go of all the people who are relying on us. Everything will get done. We're letting go of all the circumstances that we think can only depend on us. We're letting go of everybody who may disapprove of our choices and for our intentions. And now we're going to cut behind, and we're letting go, just cutting the back of the area. We're visualizing cutting all the cords of the past. When I made mistakes, that was a disappointment. I was making myself feel guilty. Maybe I felt shame, for not being enough, for telling other people they're not enough, for being a scammer, for being scammed, trying to get anything for free, not giving unconditional love, but wanting a lot of credit. Just letting all that go. And saw the cost of rushing through the cycles. We're just visualizing now the cost of rushing through the cycles, and we're seeing a lot of black colored energy, and we're going to breathe, just keep breathing through this process. We're going to marry now the intention with the visual of this energy that the void is not so scary. The black energy is just what things can come out of it. So the light itself emerges from the darkness. When it's dark, we can see the light come out, and it was said, let there be light. So let's first imagine the darkness. Let's create a connection to this void and see that from it comes light, so that we're not running away from it. Out of death comes birth, So in that way we could think about it. So as something goes, something new, and we're going to actually be thankful for all the information that we learned. I'm going to say, I'm grateful for all the information I learned. Every piece of information I learned had to die for me to know it. I'm grateful for all the knowledge that I learned. Everything I learned had to die for me to know it. It's no longer a secret. It came out of the void. It was white light information, and now I know. I can never know that again. I already know. I can only learn something new. And I'm here to learn. I'm not going to rush the learning process. So as we affirm this, the body reorganizes itself. Instead of being so front-facing and tight, it's actually reorganizing itself to say, it's okay. I don't need to learn more to be okay. I can enjoy learning, and life will come meet me. So we don't need to be so forward-facing. We can actually allow the back of our body to rest. And the past will not repeat itself. So we affirm these things. We say these things out loud now, just as a practice. So we've done the visualization of cutting the cords. We've married our intentions, which are for the sake of actually living. We think all these tasks and results will make life better, but can be better right now. And then that'll be whatever we focus on grows stronger. We did a breathing practice, and we affirmed that we're not rushing to learn more. And every experience, whether it's good or bad, has information for us. When people are upset with us, they're giving us information about themselves. So I'm open to learning information about the people in my life. I'm open to learning information about myself. I'm open to learning. I'm not running away from being here now with the information as if there's some information to come later that's so much better at the end of this cycle. A new cycle will start right away. And yes, and so now in terms of our environment and our eating, I would like to bring in seasons here, because seasons are a great way for cycles. So in terms of the most important cycles we know is summer and winter. Seasonal wisdom comes through the body because what we eat is part of what we're physically made of. Earlier we talked about intentions and our breath and our affirmations, and these are all what we're made of, but so is our food becoming part of us. We are part of Mother Nature. They come into our cells, these pieces of information. So if we rush through our eating, or we rush other things and we're so hungry, we stuff food in, we may stuff our feelings in with food. There's a relationship to food. So just sort of looking at it that in the summer we're sort of radiating with the sunshine. Food kind of takes in the sunshine. So the plants take in the sunshine, the animals eat the plants, and the animals also take in the sunshine. So it's like this, we're children kind of the sun. So during the winter is a cycle of we go inward. We have to get our energy from inside. We might eat more, our environment might need to be warmer. So we're talking now about temperature and food. So temperature and food, it's like Mother Nature is kind of like the earth, the fire, the water, and the air, and the air, the fire, the water, and the earth. And then we have the temperature, kind of the sun, as kind of like the father in this. For example, because it says it's nighttime, it's daytime, the sun comes, and it's like yes or no. It's like the death of the sunlight of the day brings the night, and we associate the moon with the feminine. It's not generating the light, it's receiving to share. So everything on the earth is receiving to share. So in the summer, we all have a little bit more, or during the sunshine energy of a season, we have this period of radiation. And then in the winter, we have this period of like invocation or ingestion. And so eating in accordance with this like night, day, summer, winter, eating hot food in the winter, eating cold food in the summer. And then the in-between periods, we have fall is where we start to grow our roots more. A lot of the outside stuff will fall away. And that's okay. If we hold on too much to these cycles that aren't working for us, we're actually the whole has to live. So now we affirm that some parts of us have to die during cycles for the whole of us to live. And then there's a branching period from winter to spring when we make new connections and we say some parts of us have to grow so that other parts can die. The part of us that may be identifying with the one who goes inward. So to face this death process. So we're looking here at time and energy. In the summer, there's more radiation. And then in terms of what also has to be done, because we're more on display, there's a lot more grooming involved, there's a lot more of presenting ourselves. And this is also like not always so easy. For example, a man is always kind of having to be a certain way in a lot of our mentality. So we could look at it like that. And then in the winter, it's kind of like we're more vulnerable to these temperatures, and it's pressure on us to put on more layers and eat more. And then in terms of maturation and peace, we have more like time to develop and more peace. So we're looking at cycles as clearly there's like there's a relationship between whenever there's some benefit, there's also a cost. And some ways that we can connect with cycles that are more supportive is by recognizing that there are times where we may need to make a softer connection, like touching our body, using it, feeling it. This is the way to feel alive when we're afraid of death, is really like and death is all impermanence. Anytime we're rushing, we're afraid of death. Anytime we're trying to exercise and we're going too far and we injure ourselves, it's because we were rushing, trying to buy some time, So wandering in a quiet, rich space without an agenda, just giving time to like kind of wander is another way to arrive back into life and to be present for a cycle at any point in the cycle. Another way is to be with animals or children who are kind of like, we can learn so much even from the vegetation, but really like those who are more in sync with natural cycles. And you don't have to be anything for them. They actually are okay with you wherever you're at in the cycle. In fact, many dogs pull out the negative energy and they'll absorb it because they have the ability to transform it. And also many other animals. I say dogs because we live in a country where a lot of people, I live in a country, USA, where a lot of people have dogs. Another way is smell. Pleasant smells go right into the brain, and they hit right where the memory center is and the emotional centers. So smelling flowers, smelling herbs, smelling incense has a very positive effect in arriving into the cycle, because the smell takes away all the little things that we may get triggered by, to do, to go, to perform, to make sure, to fix, to ensure, without realizing that, like, for example, a mother's holding her baby and the baby takes the sock off. The mother's so afraid she puts the sock right back on, and every time she does that, she's reinforcing life is not okay without your sock on, but the kid actually is saying, I feel more comfortable without the sock on right now. And so just being our own mothers for a little bit and just checking in sometimes and saying, do you need anything? How are you feeling right now? Is only possible when we're able to recognize we're in cycles all the time. And of course, being near a body of water, because water itself, especially a large amount of it, is always going through cycles. Ice, and gas, but also, condensation and then rain, and like precipitation, and then evaporation. Like water itself teaches us about cycles, and the feminine cycle, of course, like menstruation, ovulation, these cycles teach us. So women may be a little better at living in the cycle. And finally, like a challenge that's rewarding in all of this is making sure our environment is comfortable. So this is the hardest part because people, places, and things. Our environment is the people we're around, is people, that is the place that we're in, it's the stuff around us. So it's important that things don't get stagnant. Things have to be thrown away. You might think there's so much value in this piece of item, but if you're not using it and it's just in your space, actually, it's so heavy in the energy that life feels heavier. Every time we let stuff go, we become lighter. We can carry those things that will give us more benefit but are heavier. So if it has a high benefit, it also has a high cost. But if we have all these little things with so little benefit in our environment, or relationships with so little benefit, such a high cost, they take so much of our energy. And especially if we're going through a winter, we can't afford it. If we're going through a summer, we could have a lot of stuff maybe in a backpack, and it's not so heavy. And we might, like with a big purse, or we might have a house full of like new fresh things, and spring cleaning, we just got rid of stuff so that new branches can form. But then we have like maybe a different kind of cleaning before the winter where we get rid, and we kind of like we might make the walls thicker in a cabin. Like there may be stuff, or I'm thinking of like old fashioned, but sort of like what we do to ourselves. We wear more layers, and we might snuggle up and cover more. And so just this idea of looking at seasons, and these are some different ways to practice entering your cycle and enjoying the cycle while it's going on, and sort of becoming one with the cyclical nature of life, with the polar cyclical nature of life. And I wish you well on your journey. May you enjoy whatever cycle you're in just a little more.